Grado is the Daft of the Football Daft podcast.
Is that a good story? Is that a good story?
I've got an encyclopedia brain.
He's got a day man nothing. Fuck's sake. What are you, a fucking hoot?
This is Football Daft.
You're a Rangers man. I'm a Hearts man.
With Ewan Cameron.
I work for Showtime and ESPN.
And...
With the top end of Stevenson, Grado!
Oh my days. Welcome everybody to the Football Daft podcast. And isn't it great that it's Christmas time and everyone can be happy and no one's got any complaints about anything? Grado.
Disagree. Bad week.
Are you over it yet?
No, of course I'm not.
I'm sorry, mate. I'm sorry.
You know what?
How did you find out?
Well, so the pantomime started at 2 o'clock, and I managed to catch when the game started, like the first 5-10 minutes. I thought, oh, here we go, by the way. We're playing not too bad. I managed to see Ryan Jack's shot saved by Foster. I thought, right, come on. And then I think it was middle of the second half, we Chelsea Bob just gave me the eyes as if to say, and I went, no. And then the door.
Were you on stage at the time?
I was on the stage.
And Chelsea Bob came on from the wings. And we SpongeBob gave you the old
SpongeBob, aye. And so that's what happened, and I've not watched any of it back. I've heard we played really well, but at the end of the day, Celtic lifted the cup, and I think that's actually more. It hurts more that we apparently dominated the game than getting. That hurts me than getting pumped for a 5-0.
Do you know the amazing stat for me was Rangers had 9 shots on target. And do you know how many Celtic had?
How many?
1.
Aye. Shite. It's just in hindsight as well with Tav not taking the penalty and stuff like that.
See, a lot of Rangers fans aren't happy about him at the moment.
Who? Tav's getting it sared, but apparently he played well in the game on Sunday, did he?
I thought he did play well.
And how did your BT get on? How did your programme? How did it come across?
Doesn't matter what I think. It's what you thought as a viewer. Did you enjoy it?
I've not seen it.
I've not seen
that. But then the next day I decided to. Oh, for fuck's sake! If it's no Rav Florence on Wrestling Daft chowing and making noises like that, I've got Tanner slumping tea, man. Going to wrap that in now, mate.
It's just my way of saying get it up you. Having not watched Old Firm Memories on BT Sport. Did you record it on yours?
Oh no, you know what? I'll watch it the night when I get home the night. I will. In fact, I'll not watch it because I don't want to fit. But I mean, I can't even be asked talking about fit by the day. I honestly can't.
What do you want to talk about then?
Well, yesterday went to the Glasgow markets and I'm walking through Central Station. I was with my girlfriend. I went, "It's Gary McAllister. I was like, right, hold on, he's on the phone. I want a picture with him, Gary McAllister. Oh, yep.
What a
Leeds
player.
Liverpool legend. And so she's gone, don't ask for a picture. Come on, you came. And I'm like, I don't care. I want a picture of him. So he hangs up the phone, and as I go to get a picture with him, I notice he's standing with Chuck Young, who I know we've done Scotway. So I bypass Gary. I'm going, Chuck, how you doing? He's like, how you doing, Grado, my man? I'm like, Gary, do you know Grado? And he's like, no. And I'm like, no, we have met. He's like, have we? I'm like, aye, we met at the PFA Awards. You were eating your dinner and I kind of buzzed in, asked for a selfie. It was a bit rude, but I was half cut at the time. And he went, all right. And Chick goes, he's on Scott Squad in the pavilion. He does the panel. And I went, I know you know. So it was such a random Monday lunchtime picture. Me, Chick Dung and Gary Mack. Delighted. That kind of tamed the...
2 midfield maestros and Scotland's top wrestler.
Correct. So that kind of took the... What would you say?
The edge.
Aye, took the edge off it a wee bit.
It was a wee boost for you.
I went to town at in the markets. You know, I had freshly made pancakes with hunters and Nutella. Had a couple of beers. I had Buckfast mulled wine. It was a good wee day, man.
What?
Buckfast mulled wine. They've got a wee stall selling that. So
it's giving me the bokes. Just thinking about that.
Well, I'm not a bucky drinker at all. It smelt putrid, but I actually went doing quite nice. So I had that.
Did you start a fight after that, or urinate in the street?
I never urinated in the street.
Keeping in the Christmas theme.
Yeah.
A star rises in the east. End.
Oh my days, the minutes going so slow. And then when he blew the last whistle, oh my, I was buzzing.
So it was the hardest game of your life and perhaps one of the most valuable emotional lessons.
Oh my days. Best game ever.
Oh my days. Jeremy Frimpong there, who was magnificent but got sent off. That was his interview on
See,
BT
I couldn't
Sport with
even
Emma.
tell you who gets sent off. There you go. Was it him that gets sent off?
Yeah.
They don't usually go for the people. You don't usually interview the guy that gets sent off. Is there rules to that, David?
No,
These
not
kind
at
of
all.
go, right, he's been sent off, or
He's
is
one
that
that-
the guy that you want?
He's one. Yeah, it's a story, isn't it?
Right,
My
yeah.
cup final, hell and heaven.
Right.
So there's a nice little bit of a narrative
See, it's
there.
good to know stuff like that, David.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
suntan Superman, full of...
Tea.
Aye. Which are slum like a dirty wee, but anyway, we'll get through it. What's next?
Anyway, Frimpong, happy 19th birthday to Frimpong. He was absolutely superb. Really daft tackle for the penalty, I have to say. Although I heard him say that he didn't think he should be sent off. Really? Hello? It was pulling back the trigger. Not. Although having said that, Celtic are appealing the red card
Right.
on the grounds that it wasn't a goal-scoring opportunity as the ball was at the feet of Morelos. Anyway, Jonathan Gould is our star guest today. Celtic's goalkeeper, the year they stopped 10 in a row. And of course, they won the League Cup back in 97, 98. I can't believe it's 22 years already. I mean, Gould is
Crazy,
a great
man.
lad. Not spoken to him in years. So he'll be coming on later. Stay tuned. for
Send
that.
him my regards. Or my apologies for not being there.
I'll send both. And on Who Are You? I'm really looking forward to this because it's one of my favourite people. One of my favourite turns.
You say this
in
about everybody
Scotland.
that comes on.
Yeah.
You do?
I like a lot.
You've
of
never went, and this Who Are You guess is a bit of a dick, but
Well,
you don't?
but I wouldn't get them on if they were a bit
Well,
of a
that's
dick.
true.
There is
That's
a
true.
vetting process goes on here. If I book them, they've got to be decent blokes.
Right, okay.
Anyway, this fella here,
I'm looking forward to
who
it.
may be male, who
Stop
may be
telling me
female,
if they're male or female. I want to try and guess
They
it.
may
so
be
stop
male,
that.
they may
right,
be
okay.
female.
Right, no bother.
are worth waiting for.
Right,
because
okay. Looking forward to it.
Very, very funny. And I just got a text message and my phone wasn't on
So
mute.
did that, and it's somebody asking if I want to do something on Thursday night. And come on, here's my rant.
Grado's Rant.
Then I've just had another text, and I'm not going to say who it is, but I've just been asked to do something again on Thursday night, and it's like, look,
That's nice.
I'm going to be nowhere else, absolutely nowhere else apart from Christmas Day and New Year's Day, which I was spending with my family. I'm at Panto. I'm eating, sleeping, breathing, shitting, whatever, the lot, the full bung Panto until the 12th of January. Is it 12th? Aye. I'm still going to be singing about Christmas, the full lot. When people are back at their works, I'm going to be at the Panto, so I can't do anything. I can't meet up with you. I can't go for dinner. I can't go to pictures with you. I can't come and walk your dog. I can't come and do F all. I'm at Panto, alright? So I can't do nothing.
Aye, but can you buy me lunch?
No!
Can you come and wash my car?
No!
Can you come and take the dog for a walk?
No. Speaking of dogs, did I talk about it last week? My
Oh, my-
dad's dog, Jeannie Hudwains, 8 puppies came out her farter, not her farter, but it was such a sight to see. I've never seen it before, man. I was biffing me out. The dog's just walking, because somebody that I know is interested in buying a golden retriever off my dad. My dad's got it all set up. It's all brilliant. He's got the wee den set up. It's all heated and there's cushions and it's all done the right way. My dad's getting right in it, so he is. And somebody was inquiring about it, going, what's the deal with the puppies, when they're going to be born? And I texted my dad saying, what's the update? And when he phoned me, and I thought he was he's a taxi driver, I thought he had steaming women in the back of his taxi. I heard, and he's like, get running now! You see, it's happening, get running now, hurry up, there's 4 in the flare. So I jumps in the motor and I drives round, and oh my God, I couldn't believe it, just seeing, they're just plopping out. And the wee bubbles, and poor Jeannie was licking them, and I'm going, is it deed? And then she licks them, and then they come alive, and it's beautiful, and it was amazing to see. So golden retrievers on sale if you want to contact.
That's brilliant.
Time for Christmas.
I just in time for Christmas.
You're buzzing about that, old son.
Oh, it was beautiful to see, man. It was she was brilliant, and I shout out to my mate Pete Dong, Pete Dong, man, Peter Miller. For
Why is it called
Stevenson,
Pete Dong?
because he has the largest penis in Europe.
Do you know, I had a feeling that's what it was.
Yep.
But I still never
And
asked
he
it.
done well with the midwifery. He was there. Had his gloves on, and he was brilliant at keeping them all nice and warm and putting the wee puppies into Jeannie's teats. You know, it was an eventful night. But it was scary seeing them coming out and they don't move until Jeannie licks them. But it was amazing.
So in summing up,
Summing up, don't ask me to do fucking anything during panel season. And then after panel, we'll get into the Scotch squad, so even there, you probably want to get hold of me either. Speak to me in February.
Right, listen, as it's Christmas time, we want to pay our respects to the nativity story by looking at the picture of the little baby Jesus in the stable.
Hey, Mary.
Joseph.
Three musketeers. Three wise men. Three musketeers.
Musketeers.
Three musketeers. Three wise men. Whatever. Right, keep going.
Oh, brilliant. The Three Musketeers and the star rising in the east, oh my days, and of course the donkeys. And we thought it would be nice for everyone to talk to us about the donkey
Of their team.
of their team. It might be now, it might be in the past. For example, the biggest donkey I can think of in an Old Firm context, Raphael Shite. Cost millions of pounds. He was called Shite, and he played like that.
It was just so funny watching it in STV News going, Celtic have signed, where was he, for Brazil?
Yeah, he was at Brazil.
Raphael Shite. And I was like, he is actually called Shite? He's called Shite?
And
Like, who's playing up front, Shite? Was he a striker?
It was a centre
same
back.
thing.
So that's the kind of idea we're looking for. We're looking for your favourite donkey. I want you to give us one.
Oh,
just
I've
now.
got mine ready to go.
So let us know on social media then. There's the Football Daft Facebook page. On Twitter, it's at Football Daft Pod. On Instagram, it's Football Daft Podcast. On YouTube, it's Football Daft. Get in touch with us via that, or let me know on my Twitter account, which is
At David Tanner TV.
or get in touch via Grado on at Grado Wrestling.
Correct.
Is that enough plugs?
Aye.
So, have you had time to think about one then?
Oh, it's
for
been
the
in my
teddy
head.
bears.
Aye. My donkey for Rangers has got to be none other than Umar Sadiq. Who? Umar Sadiq. Absolutely. I mean, I knew right. I think he played in a pre-season friendly.
When was that?
And he was at Bambi on ice last year. Sure, we played Aberdeen in the semi-finals of the League Cup, and he was the only player we could play. And
Last season?
Aye, and sure he dived in the penalty box. An absolute fucking rotten player. And you know what?
Was it worse? Was it worse than Philip Sable?
Aye, he was. He definitely was.
Really?
And you know what really got to me was he was always parading his cell phone Instagram with his big Mercedes, his Gucci tracksuits, his tidy bird. He was howling, and then he had the cheek to bite at Rangers fans once he left. Don't get me wrong, he did get it tight on the internet. But honestly, who signed him? He could run like fuck, but oh my God, I'm putting it on. I'm putting it on right now. I'm a better footballer than Umar Sadiq. I'm a better footballer than Umar Sadiq.
You're the guy that missed a chance at Ibrox Park from about 3 inches out.
And what?
Brilliant. So listen, next week is our last Football Daft podcast before Christmas. So we want to know your festive donkeys, your Christmas donkeys from your club, or maybe from your rival's club. Let us know anyway on social media. Get in touch with us. And for this segment of the show, we have removed Grado from the room and brought in the Who Are You mystery guest. And later, Grado will come in and try and guess who it is wearing a very, very, very natty blindfold. And I can reveal to you, dear listener, that the mystery guest this week on Who Are You is none other than comedian and actor, I shouldn't forget, Mr. Raymond Mearns. Raymond, good to see you.
Good to be here, David. Lovely to be here.
I have to say, one of the scariest things I've ever had was one, when you picked on me at one of your hilarious stand-up acts in Edinburgh. And secondly, when I was hosting the Motherwell Player of the Year dinner, I noticed you were at the back of the room, and I found that very, very nerve-wracking.
Well, First of all, I can assure you, when I give you a severe arse ripping at my gig, there is no malicious intent, and there's certainly no contact. So,
And nothing physical.
I'm not so sure if giving somebody a good shuriken's a crime.
Shuriken's a great word, isn't
It's
it?
a great word. It's an old Glasgow word, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what he needs? He needs a right good shuriken.
I think the Oxford English Dictionary would probably say pelters instead for younger
Pelters,
viewers.
Right, I don't know. Shuriken's good. So, I don't know. I don't recall you being at the front row of my gig or being at my gig.
I wasn't at the front row. I was quite a bit back actually
Were
in the
you?
cheap seats, but you still spotted me.
Wow, right. Right, okay. I mean, I don't remember that. But what was the second one? Me being in the room, I was a civilian that night, David.
You were.
So I'm curious enough, because I spend so much of my professional life standing up, making an absolute rank fool of myself. I really, honestly love to just, if I'm out, to be anonymous and just be, under the radar, incognito, which for me is easy, actually. I mean, my claim to fame was my Uncle James phoned me up one day from Southampton. It went, Raymond, you're famous. He says, how? You're 14 across in a daily record crossword. He said to me, it says, Raymond, 6, comedian, 14 across. And he went, no. And it says, it's you. I went,
That's magnificent.
14 across in a daily record crossword. I don't know what year that was. He's passed over a few years ago. Uncle James, he's been paying brief for a while.
Whenever I switch on TV just now, if there's a comedy show on from Scotland, if Grado's not in it, you're in it.
Maybe not for a few years. I do the Breaking the News show,
Yeah,
which
I love that.
a lot of people watch, which is phenomenal. And I went on tour this year, and because I get people kind of coming who's seen the Limmy's show, which was really big and then went on to Netflix, you get a lot of the younger sort of generation coming. Then you get an older age profile watch the Breaking the News. So it's amazing to just have some purchase over the different kind of demographics.
Oh, yeah, demographics. I like it when you get technical.
Aye, you see, despite the fact I talk like a bricklayer, I'm smarter than the average bear, I think. Aye.
Were you good at football at school?
Do you know what? I was terrible at football, but what I was amazing at was I could place a ball with incredible speed and accuracy. So I was really good as a centre forward, but I was a penalty box poacher. Now, thankfully, never really played offside at school, or I would have been the one that scored half the goals I scored. But there was a guy in my school called Paul Harvey who became a professional football player. I remember beating the teachers once on a trip to the Magnum Centre, and I remember putting about 10 past the modern studies teacher, and it really annoyed him. and Paul Harvey laid every one of them on.
Well, that's brilliant. Now, Paul Harvey had a good career, did he not?
I know he played professionally. I know for a fact. Did he go to? I know he played for.
Here we are. Born 1968. Started his professional career in England in 1986-87 with Manchester United.
I know that. I went to Man U.
Decent.
Awesome.
Half decent.
Aye.
Then he had spells elsewhere: Airdrie, Wraith Rovers, Dumbarton, Livingston, Queen of the South, Motherwell, Stennismuir, Airdrie United, and Queen's Park. And he's now an under-21 side coach, South Camlachi.
Phenomenal footballer.
Good stats.
Really tremendous attacking midfield player who could pass the ball with pinpoint accuracy.
Yeah, I think he might have been in that good Airdrie team. So, was there anyone else in your school who would have gone on to make the grade? Because that part of Glasgow mass-produced footballers.
Well, there was Pat Nevin was in 5th year when I started.
Okay.
At St Andrews. So I remember Pat, and because he'd signed at the time an S form for Celtic, and that was big. He was big man on campus, wasn't he? He was the man. So I remember Pat. It was heavy metal badges on his jacket and all that.
Now listen, I saw you at the Motherwell Player of the Year. Now Raymond, I saw you at the Motherwell Player of the Year dinner from the stage. I could see you out there. So, how big a Motherwell fan are you then?
Well, my good lady, the lovely Annie, is a mad Motherwell fan. And I mean mad to the point of when she's in the ground, irrational.
Oh, really?
Right? Oh, I mean, a real football fan.
An irrational female.
Oh, irrational. I mean, you can't get a pie. The referee's getting hot with it, right? So she's mad for Motherwell. So we started kind of watching. And I remember when Motherwell 2 seasons ago, you know, they got to the League Cup final and the Scottish Cup final in the same season, which was an awesome thing. We started, Anne and I, we went along and started watching some of the games, and I just kind of got into it.
Who's been the most famous person you've met in a football context?
Oh, it would have to be Billy McNeil. I did this thing years ago for... I knew these two entrepreneurs who ran this online poker thing in conjunction with Poker Stars in America or something. And they gave me the job to kind of write the script and make the wee film, which was going to be FC Poker Room, which was for the Scottish Football League. And we did one for Celtic, which was very specifically just Celtic's poker portal. And we met with the Celtic directors, and Billy had agreed to come and make the wee film, which, along with myself, and I wrote the script and we'd got it filmed and all that. And so we went one day to Celtic Park before we shot the wee film, and I got to hang about with Billy McNeil for like an afternoon at Celtic Park, and it was amazing. It's he is.
You're smiling when you recall this.
I know it's one of the, I don't deserve to have had that experience when so many people have invested much more in Celtic than I have ever done. But it was just wonderful. I remember we were out in the car park. I have no idea why we were out in the car park, but we were just walking about and Billy's talking away and Big Bobo was getting into the boot, his motor, and it's just, Billy McNeil was probably the most famous centre half Celtic's ever had, maybe. And he went, God, look at Big Bobo. He's magnificent, isn't he? And the twos are just standing there watching Bobo baldying through the boot of his motor. And it was beautiful. It was a really special time. And then the day we shot, and we went for lunch in Straveg, and I remember we shot the thing and went for lunch and sitting in, and he's so full of stories and places he's been and things he's done. One of my favourite stories is his best pals with Pat Crerand, and he said about Pat Crerand, he said, Pat Crerand's never changed since he was a wee boy, he's just always the same. And he says, I remember me and Pat went on holiday to Spain back in the 70s with our wives, and Pat Crerand's missus has started wearing his European Cup winners' medal with Manchester United, you know, the wee square one they used to get, on a chain round her neck. So Billy, she says, my wife, I don't remember Billy's wife's name, so sorry.
Liz.
Liz. So Liz started doing the same. And so we're on this boat, and there's the two wives, they've got the European Cup medals, and this Dutch lady came up and went, oh, this is lovely, I do this. And I went, ha, hen, do you know what that is? That's a European Cup medal, hen, right? Your man's got to win that. She says, I know, I have 3. It was Mrs. Ari Han of Ajax in Holland.
Really?
And what Billy says, he says it was brilliant. 2 wee Glasgow women just bumming their load.
That is superb.
It's a beautiful, beautiful, wonderful story. And when he told it, the humility that the late great Billy McNeil showed was, for me, a real lesson to. It's special, just having that time with him. It was beautiful.
Yeah, he was great to be around, that's for sure.
He was a lovely man. He was genuinely and so humble. And I'm going, Billy, you should be insufferable egomaniac. You lifted the European Cup. I never said that to him, but that was what I was thinking. I would never say such a thing.
But plenty of others are like that, don't worry about that. So listen, this fella, Grado the wrestler. So listen, Raymond, Big Grado is going to come in here in a minute and try to identify you. We've got 2 problems, I think. One is that you're always on television. And I think
I could be on more.
Yes, I know. I know the feeling. And he might recognise your voice.
I think that's the one thing that people kind of know the voice. People don't always maybe know the cootum so much.
Right.
But I think this voice is, I have
Can you
found...
disguise it? Have you got like a Gestapo officer voice or
No.
something you pull out of your acting?
Well, you know,
box?
I'm fairly good at accents, but I
Right.
need to practice them a wee bit.
Right.
I mean,
What can you do? The accent of the week for me has been Dutchman Jeremy Frimpong, who's got a Coronation Street accent. Oh my days.
Coronation Street accent.
Well, he moved to Manchester when he was quite young.
Is that right?
Oh
He
my-
had him. He's like a mank lad, so he's run about Manchester,
And he
mad
kept-
for it.
Exactly.
Harking back to the old days of the hacienda.
And exactly. And he's 19 years old today, by the way. And he says, "Oh my days." He said it about 4 times in his interview with Emma Dodds.
Oh
on
my
BT
days.
Sport.
What-
My days.
Oh my days.
Yeah.
Oh my days. Oh
yeah,
my.
Yeah. I don't know. It's always a Mancunian thing.
I'm not familiar with that. I'm not at
So
all.
maybe that's the accent.
But I
Okay.
think what'll happen is I'll start speaking as either Terry Christian or Bernard Manning's been brought back to life.
yeah. Both of them are unattractive characters. But listen, let's get Grado in and we'll continue with Who Are You in a moment. So welcome back to the Football Daft podcast. Who Are You's guest is here and Grado is here now with the blindfold. Grado, welcome into the room.
Good to see you, David.
How can you
Well,
see
I can't
me?
see you, but it's good to be in your presence.
Oh, thanks very much. Thanks very much.
Anyway, we'll go for it.
Yeah,
We'll have a wee
let's
feel
go.
about.
Yeah, I forgot to brief our guest that there may be feeling involved in this.
It's no David Jason style.
He's not going to touch me, is he?
I might have to, mate. You know.
I don't know if I'm
It's
happy with
part
that.
of the
I don't know.
process.
Oh my days!
Getting fondled on air.
It's part of the process, unfortunately. Anyway, we'll go
You're
for
about
it.
6 inches away from
All right,
him.
okay.
You better get closer.
Right, wait till we hear. Wait till we see. So, oh, right.
So yeah, I'm fully clothed. Yes, I'm fully clothed.
Right.
I'm not sitting here naked.
Right, you've got
And they all together.
Similar. Have you got a similar chest?
Well, I could be like a wrestler like yourself, Grado.
You could be.
I could fill the MEN arena.
I've wrestled there once. Right, hairy arms.
Yes.
You are male. Getting out. Let's feel above the head. Oh, you're sweating, aren't you?
Oh, oh yes.
It wasn't a couple of minutes ago. You can forgive him for that.
Right. Are you old?
I am of a certain advanced years, but I'm not dead yet.
Right, okay. Well, that's a start. Okay, clothing.
Although I am.
Are you with it?
some
Oh, Christ,
people
you've got
think
your
I'm-
chest out. You've got your chest
Yeah,
out.
some people think I'm older than I am.
Right, well, you're wearing your chest hair is protruding here.
How old are you?
How old are you?
52.
Are you actually?
Last Saturday,
Happy birthday for yourself. Right.
30th November, bloody
Right.
St Andrew's Day.
Right. You're not married. Are you divorced?
I might be.
Do you write books?
No.
Do you do... What do you do, mate? What? What's wrong with that?
There is a football connection to this fella.
Right.
Is there?
Right. What team do you support, big fella?
Oh well, that's
Now, not to be scared. Don't be scared.
these days I find myself at Fair Park watching Motherwell.
This is Belt Motherwell, Christ. The only Motherwell fans I know are Tam Cowan and... That's it. Do you get Motherwell? Who supports fucking Motherwell?
Do you know Tam Cowan?
I do.
Give me other... What kind of things can I ask him, mate? I'm struggling here.
Well, I mean,
Are you Android or iPhone?
Android.
Right.
oh, you must have got it by now then. I think if you examine his line of work,
Right, okay. Stand-up comedy?
Yes.
Oh, fuck.
Stop swearing.
Apologies. It's just I've had a stressful day. I really have. Right, stand-up comedian. I know who you are. You're fucking brilliant. I love you. And do you know what?
no, it's not him.
No, I'm telling you, I think I know who it is. And do you know what? I think you one day, I think I was at the stand one day, and I was at the front row, and you picked up my tattoo because it was just no long after I got my Grado tattoo. I know who you are. Raymond Melns. Is it Raymond Melns?
Amazing.
Yes! I'm fucking delighted with that. I'm delighted with that. You're a dancer.
That's superb.
I bet you don't even remember that, do you?
I don't.
see,
I have no memory.
No, see how I went to a show at the stand, right? And it was it was 2009, no long after I was in Magaluf. And he was like, "Man, what's your tattoo?" And I told the story about how I was in Spain, I got blue tart, and my pals never made me get a tattoo, but I got a tattoo of a name that I thought people called me. Turns out nobody called me Grado. So it was a matter of the next day I was trying to scratch it off. And then I thought, right, well, I need to phone everybody.
Can we see it?
What?
Let me see it.
There it is, yeah.
It's on his
You
knob.
don't remember that? Well, I suppose you gig every night for fuck's sake.
I've
Come on,
done
hold on.
thousands of gigs.
Mate, you're one of the best.
Oh, Grado's gone topless.
Do you know what?
Because I've been to I go with my kids to your wrestling things.
The funniest line, and one of the funniest things I've ever seen you do. Hang with Raymond.
What?
Eckies.
Oh, that was in the Lemmy show.
That was
I mean,
brilliant. That was brilliant.
That was 10 years ago,
That was
Grado.
one of the best scenes ever. Mate, the funeral scene.
That's right.
You try.
That's
They
right.
go for the. Mate, honestly.
You get all the young team. All the young team come up to me and want a selfie and they go, "Gonna do that Eckies."
Aye, go do it now. Go.
And they'll go, Eckies. I mean, I don't even know. I
love it. I love
and
it.
it's not something I'm accustomed to. I have no idea what the
What it does
effect
to
of
you.
Eckies. I wouldn't know. How would I know? Right. Iron brew and Mentos. That's about as far as. So.
I'm delighted with this, honestly. I'm up.
there you go.
And I'm glad I got it as well.
What's been the best night out you've had? Has it been watching Grado at wrestling or watching me host the Motherwell Player of the Year dinner?
It's hard to pick. It depends. If one of you left the room, I'd give you an answer.
So you go to Fir Park regular then? I know you've probably spoke about this.
I do actually.
Do you
I've
actually?
been going. My missus is a mad Motherwell supporter,
Aye.
and we go and watch Motherwell home and away.
Do you?
Aye.
I'm delighted with this.
I'm so delighted. I'm a massive fan.
Aye, no,
I'm
so
not
am I.
blowing up your arse here. I'm
Yeah,
a massive fan
big
of
time,
Raymond.
big time.
I've seen you at the Edinburgh Festival because I'm big time. Mm-hmm. Living in Edinburgh.
Yes, you are.
Oh, aye.
I was in Edinburgh yesterday.
And it's
man.
nice to come through to
Thanks for
Glasgow and
coming
have
through to see
somebody
me.
to talk to.
Well, Raymond, listen, thank you very
Aye.
much for coming in.
Oh, my pleasure. It's just absolutely lovely to be here and
Yeah.
just.
Oh, do you mean that?
I genuinely think it's beautiful to just.
Aye, no, it's good to see you, man.
Because as you know, sometimes it's nice just to be.
Got to go to the house, innit?
About stuff. Aye, it's pottering about, you know.
I mean-
Normally just sitting in my electric lazy boy high chair, you know, just watching the telly. Just waiting for the window cleaners to turn up.
And with that thought,
Yes.
Raymond, it's been fantastic having you in. Seriously, I've really, really enjoyed it. Look forward to seeing you live at the Edinburgh Festival again. I know
I do it every year.
that's not next year,
Yes,
is it?
I'll be at the Edinburgh Festival. And I'll be doing my solo show at the Stand Comedy Club as well at the Glasgow International Comedy Festival
When's that?
on the
March.
29th of March next year.
Really?
It might be. I don't know.
We'll be there.
We'll see.
We'll be there. We'll go to
Aye.
that one, won't we? If John buys the tickets.
Aye.
Yeah.
Raymond Mearns, thank you.
Thanks very much,
Thank
Raymond, my
you.
man. You're the
Absolute
man.
pleasure. Thanks for having
Cheers,
me.
brother. Thanks very much. Who Knows Wins is a home of social betting, and they're changing the culture of gambling. Bookies have been taken out the equation, and you can bet on sports against your mates. So the more you know, the more you win. The more folk involved, the more money that's in the pot, the more money that's up for grabs for you and your pals to win.
Terrific. Congratulations to all our winners at the weekend. We had 6 winners, all picking up 24 quid each. Wow, that's a
Brilliant.
lot of winners. That's a lot of people getting a lot of predictions right. So download the app on the Apple Store or Google Play. For more information, visit whoknowswins.com.
You then just set up a league, set an entry fee, choose your matches, invite all your pals, and you predict the outcome of the games. The person with the most correct predictions wins a pot of money. And this week, we have picked 6 games for your chance to take our money with a £5 entry fee. So you put in £5 bar and you go for the predictions. So the games are for the Premiership, Scottish Premiership. It's Ross County versus Kilmarnock.
Away win.
Okay, I'm going to go for away win myself. Hearts versus St Johnstone.
A riot and the points withheld.
What does that mean? A draw?
A draw.
I think so. Surely there's going to be a wee bit of
A
bounce
Daniel
coming from
Stendhal
Hearts.
bounce?
He's going to...
All right, I'm going to say Hearts win.
I'm going to
keep
say
you
Hearts as
happy.
well. We're going to go for the Championship. Come on, the Smokies! Arbroath versus Dundee United. My best mate, Ricky Little, who is not the captain, as I keep embarrassing him on this show by calling him the captain. He's not the captain, but hoping, fingers crossed, he takes points off the Tangerines. Partick Thistle.
I'm going to go for a draw in that one.
Oh, you're going to go for a draw?
Red Luchty's a point.
Come on, I like these. Firhill, Partick Thistle versus Calais Thistle.
The Jags derby.
That'll be a close one. Oh, the Jags, that's a good one.
I'm going to go for Thistle.
I'm going to go for Thistle. From League One, we've got Airdrie versus Peterhead. I've absolutely no fucking idea what that score will be.
Eat the breed for Peterhead.
Go for it. For League Two, we've got Annan Athletic versus Edinburgh City. Who are you thinking?
I'm going to go for the Eden Buggerers.
So what you should do is get yourself together, you and your pals, maybe it's a WhatsApp group, wherever you do your group chatting, it's a
Tinder?
good idea.
Is that
I don't think
allowed?
you can do that in Tinder.
I don't know.
But
try.
what today is, get your mates, get the money put in the pot, and go for it, man, because at the end of the day, the bookies are getting hee-haw, damn all of your money. So get tore in. I know a lot of my pals have been doing it, and they seem to really, really enjoy it, because at the end of the day, the money is going to you or you or your mates. So, you know, it's coming up to that time of the year where you're wanting to put in a bit of a kitty for the Christmas night suit. So it's a no-brainer, Davy boy.
Did you go off script there?
I certainly did.
Well done. And it's time now on the Football Daft podcast for our star guest. And for this part of the programme, I have to admit, Grado is not here because why else? He's doing panto at the moment. Is that right, John? Yeah. Bloody idiot. Honestly, I didn't get that problem with Neil McCann, let me tell you. Anyway, I'm delighted to say, given the performance of Fraser Forster at the weekend, we had to get a goalkeeper on. And I'm delighted to say, one of my favourite guys in football that I've not spoken to in about 15 years, I would have thought, Jonathan Gould, the man who helped break Rangers' run of 9 consecutive titles and also brought Celtic their first League Cup in 15 years. That was back in 97-98. Joins us now. Gouldy, good to see you. How are you keeping these days, fella?
I'm very well, thanks, David.
Tell me, before we look back on Celtic, let everybody know what you're up to now.
I'm currently a goalkeeping coach at Preston North End. I've been here about 3 months. I endured 3 months of garden leave, having left Middlesbrough. I actually thought I was going to enjoy that, but after a couple of months, you actually want to go back to work, David. So it's nice to be back in. Although of late our Saturdays have been ruined by a few defeats. So hopefully tonight that will change.
Any goalkeeping blunders in there?
No comment.
Very wise.
Hold on, no, actually, of course not.
Hey, that's an even better answer. Your nose is just growing like Pinocchio's, but I'm sure that's just a cosmetic matter. So listen, before we move on to Celtic, So tell me about this, tell me about this fella, Alex Neil. Great reputation in Scotland, but he seemed to have an even better one in England.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be fair to say when he came down from Scotland, he was an unknown quantity and very, very quickly changed the fortunes of Norwich City around. And I actually sat and watched the final of that playoff, and you could see then how he got his teams to play. There's a fair amount of self-expression allowed, which is fantastic in the modern game, and he's a very passionate young manager. At the age of 38, he's already achieved a vast amount in the game.
What do you think are his strengths?
Detail, undoubtedly. When he observes opposition, and I think the key for Alex, having watched him over the last 2 months, is that some managers find it very, very hard to see what they see on the video or go and watch opposition, and then relay it in the presentations, and then still manage to be able to pass that message on a training field. Alex seems capable of doing all of those three things and never misses a beat. And he's a positive manager. I mean, you watch him on the touchline and he's quite voracious and he's passionate, but all the time his mind's thinking. He never switches off from the game.
Are you going to get promotion this year?
It's going to be tough. We've had the last couple of weeks. We've lost four key players, really, 2 centre backs and 2 midfield players. We started the season fabulously well, but I don't think it'll take much to get ourselves back on song. We have lost the last 4, but we're still in 7th, and I think we play Fulham tonight and Luton on Saturday, and both at home. So our touch wood, our home record's been pretty good of late.
Now, tell me about Fraser Forster and his performance in the Betfred Cup final at the weekend there. I mean, is that as good a performance as you've seen from a goalkeeper?
Yeah, probably for a long time, especially in an Old Firm game that actually mattered. These games can be pretty tight at the best of times, and I mean, I looked at the stats, David. You probably have as well, and you think that it would have been possession-wise, Rangers had most of the play, but it was actually 50-50. It just came down to the effectiveness, but without the product. And the reason there was no product was it wasn't a post, it wasn't clearances on the line. It was a goalkeeper that was in tremendous form.
Celtic had 1 shot on target.
That's all it takes if you score.
It's a proper smash and grab, isn't it? It reminded me a little bit of Walter Smith's Rangers and the way that they took out Celtic just before you arrived. I mean, you lost once or twice to Celtic to Walter in that his last season and his first time. But did you see a little bit of similarity the way that Lenny played it?
Yeah, probably. I think there's always different ways of setting up, and I think it's pretty clear that Edouard wasn't fully fit, and I think that is going to take an approach out of the game. He holds the ball, retains it very, very well. So Neil had obviously looked at it and thought there were certain players that could do a job, and in the end, it was the goalkeeper that was required to do the main one.
Was there any particular? What is it about Fraser Forster's game that allows him to make that kind of performance in that kind of game?
There's no crap involved, David. Okay, and if you go back over the last 3 or 4 years with Fraser, and I came up against him when he was at Southampton, and I was coaching at West Brom in the Premier League, and in the last 15 minutes he made 3 incredible saves. Now, the thing about Fraser is he was maligned after he came back to play for Southampton after his injury. Yeah, he then created a 708-minute record of keeping the ball out the back of the net. In the Premier League, we're talking now. Yeah. He's already got a record with Celtic of 1,256 minutes. He knows how to keep out the back of the net. And I think as goalkeeping coaches and managers, we must never forget that is what our job is. And you've got to be able to, in the modern day, you've got to be able to pass it. You've got to get it out to your fullback. You've sometimes got to go long. Have you got to hit it into second pockets perfectly? No, I don't think you have. But what you have got to do is prevent the opposition scoring. And I think the range of saves he made the other day showed what a great goalkeeper he is.
It does make me think, why on earth is he not on that Southampton team?
I'm going to come back to, I think it was under Puel where he probably lost his way a little bit. And as I said, there has been a change in how a goalkeeper's makeup should look, but I'm not a massive advocate of it. I still think there's a huge job for a goalkeeper to do, and that's prevent goals. And I think the other thing is where you look at Jordan Pickford, right?
Yeah.
Who is probably one of his, not adversaries, but one of his competitors for the England job, for the England goalkeeping job. And Jordan's known for his distribution, but if you actually look at Jordan, the best part of Jordan's distribution is the fact that he can belt the ball 70 yards and he's accurate with it. But he'll be remembered from the World Cup for a couple of great saves, not how well he actually delivered the ball with his feet.
Can Fraser get back in that number 1 jersey for England?
Yeah, if he wants to. You never. I don't. There's not many people that have that retire from international football unless they're told to. I think I think it's probably helped him a little bit to concentrate on his club form and when I played, and I always knew that if my club form was good, there's always a chance of some kind of international recognition. But you have to do your bread and butter well, and that's on a Saturday and a Tuesday and a Wednesday in the Scottish League and in Europe, and he's managed to do that.
Let's go back to 1997, Goldie. When you were languishing in Bradford City reserves, did you think, I might end this season with a league title and a League Cup winners medal here?
But you know what? Never in my wildest dreams, and probably until you just said that there, it dawns on you how quickly the game can turn in the space of 12 months. Yeah, you're sitting pretty at the top of a Scottish Premiership.
Take us back to that period and talk us through when you first heard of the possibility that Celtic were in for you.
It was a strange morning actually, because I'd had a phone call from my agent at the time, and he'd said, "Oh, Celtic are after a goalkeeper. Would you be interested?" And I'd obviously already been involved with the Scotland squad back in I think it was '93 when I was playing at Coventry City. But in the 3 years, my career had sort of dwindled slightly, and I said at the time, yeah, of course I would. I then picked up the phone, Dave, and I rang my dad. And I said, "Dad, do you know anybody at Celtic?" And he went, "Yeah, I know Jock Brown." I said, "Well, look, I've had the phone call from my agent. Can you just follow that call up for me?" And that's how it all came about. At the end of it, once we'd agreed terms, and that wasn't difficult, you go into a club like Celtic, it wasn't about money, it was really about the opportunity. But at the end of it, I sat down with Jock, and I said, "Jock," I said, "so as my agent helped sort all this out," and he said, "Who's your agent?" And I told him who it was. He went, No, he suggested Brian Gunn. So, if I hadn't actually made the phone call to my dad, it may never have happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And was that the point that your agent became your ex-agent?
Yeah, that's why I'm not actually benefiting him with his name.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah.
And for those who don't remember that period, Jock Brown was the general manager of Celtic.
Yeah.
And the year before that, and for the 20 years before that, he'd been the commentator on BBC Sports Scene, and before that on STV Scott Sport. And it was a bizarre move for him to get that job. So was it purely an agent-related thing then, or had Celtic heard about you?
No, I think it came back down to Murdo MacLeod had been part of that Scotland setup back in '93. He'd remembered me for that week, and I did pretty well in training, although I hadn't been selected. And that was, that's where it all came about, I think. Because Vim obviously didn't know who I was. Pete Latchford may have known something of me because I played down in the UK. But it was probably Murdo that was the catalyst to that, having had that recommendation.
Terrific. Now I've got a question here on Facebook from James Hope. Thanks for your question, James. And he says, "What was it like for Jonathan playing in a cup final in your first few months at the club?"
Yeah, that was it was a strange one as well, because there was a cup final at Ibrox. Because the stadiums weren't ready at the time. I think that particular one was massive for us as a squad, and as an individual. That's when it dawned on how important it was to win trophies at Celtic Football Club. We'd also gone the whole tournament without conceding a goal, which I think had only happened twice previously. So that helped it, and I think it's part of the bedding in for me as an individual, and probably shown that I was capable of going for the rest of the season.
So talk us through the early part. I seem to remember you arriving on the day of a game. Is my memory right?
It was the Hibs game. Prior to the Hibs game, we played, and that was the first league game. So I was sat in the dugout, obviously watching Henrik's rather strange start to his career. Who would have known? And then I think 2 or 3 days later, I played against Roma in a friendly. We played them at Celtic Park. We beat them 1-0, and I didn't miss a game from that day forward.
When did you realise Henrik Larsson was going to be the King of Kings? As you said, you mentioned there in his first game, he sold the jerseys, didn't he? Set up a Chick Charlie goal.
I wouldn't put it that nastily, to be honest.
He did, however, he did rather recover from it, to be fair.
Yeah. Probably in the same game where I felt I had my first impact was the St Johnstone game, because I'd made a save from George O'Boyle, and then we virtually went down the other end, and he scored a diving header, and all these dreadlocks were flying all over the place, and you knew then, diving headers, you know you've got a centre forward in your club. They're a rarity nowadays. The likes of Andy Gray made them famous, but Henry, delivered on that day at the other end of the field, and he's always had, and I'm not going to call it an arrogance because that's sometimes it's misconstrued that way. He had an air about him that was about belief, and the other thing that he had was the most incredible work ethic I've seen from a centre forward. That
arrogance or confidence didn't always go down well with his teammates. Were you there the famous day that he went head to head with Tosh McKinley? Great moments in sport, that, wasn't it?
Why do we always remember those things, Dave? I don't get it.
Tosh tells it very, very well. He does tell it very well, to be fair.
I was there, and literally, it was a training ground scuffle that in England would have probably been handbags and fisticuffs, but Glasgow is probably more renowned for using your head in those situations.
Was it a decent connection? He had quite a shiner, as I remember.
From what I can remember.
Yeah, quite a shiner. Those were the days. What about the characters in that team? Let's start with the manager, Wim Jansen. Yeah. I always found him to be friendly, but maybe cold at the same time. And, he would use one word where 10 would go.
Wim was... he was quite pragmatic in his approach. I think that I wouldn't say there was a language barrier, but there was sometimes an interpretation barrier instead. But I loved him to bits straight away. He was one of these guys that, and I remember I sort of, it connects with me more now, having become a coach, that he would put things on in training that at the time you didn't realise how important they were. It was about big spaces, little spaces. There was one of his methods used to be on Parkhead. If we trained there, he played the first 11 against 7 reserves, and the 7 reserves would obviously get hammered. They'd be running around really quite aggressively and frustrated, but you knew it was because Vim was setting us up to play with plenty of space. There'd be other times where on the training field where we may have gone to Dunfermline away and he'd tighten the area up. There'd be other times where he'd referee the game absolutely atrociously to deliberately wind us up. Everything was preparation, and it was sometimes it was physical, sometimes it was the dynamic of the training field, and sometimes it was psychological.
What about the big personalities in the team? I'm thinking back then, if I went into a training session or went into the club, the first voice you would usually hear would be Craig Burley's. And there were a few others who were also lacking shyness as well.
Do you know what? I don't think there was one in there that was shy. Harold Brackpack was probably the shyest, but he was also the nicest guy. Mm-hmm. So that probably does go hand in hand. It was like Darren Jackson. I didn't know much of Darren, and Darren was he was pretty quick. Craig always was. I think Tommy Johnson, and then you had probably the pop band in Jackie McNamara and Simon Donnelly.
Dollar.
Yeah, they were. It was quite a unique blend of characters, and I think it's something that's slightly lost in the game today. None of us were afraid to say exactly how we felt about situations, whether it was in the changing room or it was on the training field or even in a game. The one I do remember is Big Mark Reaper, because he was quite curt with his words, and I think we were. I can't remember which game it was, but he turned around to me at one point and he says, "Goldie," they've had one shot and scored 2 effing goals. You know. So it's probably, the other one was probably an own goal. I'm not sure. I can't remember rightly, but yeah, that was the kind of stuff that went on. And you also had big Alan Stubbs, and Scousers are well renowned for being moany at the best of times. And yeah, you didn't get away with anything in the dressing room at all.
There was always a lot of laughter around that dressing room. What was the biggest laugh you think you all had, or the maddest thing that happened back then?
The maddest thing that we did as a group, absolutely, was going out the week before the last game against St Johnstone.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When we got beat by Dunfermline, drawn with Dunfermline, we were all hoping for a party on that Sunday.
Craig Falconbridge.
Sorry?
Craig Falconbridge.
Yeah.
That was the player, wasn't it? The equaliser?
Yeah, it was off his ear. It was a fluke. But it was so we were sat on the coach on the way back, all feeling sorry for ourselves because we wanted a party. And the only way we could obviously see ourselves getting out of it was to go out on the Tuesday night. And it was the lads were in a fair amount of poor condition. Probably say so myself as well. We went to the Amber Regent, David. I don't know if you remember that.
It's still there.
We used to go to. Sat on a big round table. And we pulled it back together again because I think the frustration had to be borne out somehow, and that was how we did it 20 years ago.
It seemed to work though, because on the final day of the season in 97-98, Rangers could have won the league up at Tannadice, and you had to win against St Johnstone. I was at Tannadice working on the game for STV that day, listening to the radio commentary in one ear, and it sounded very, very nervous.
Yeah.
Is that how you remember it?
Yeah, that's and I've said this before. I still watch that game now on DVD, and I'm nervous watching it in case I can see the goal. There were a couple of we got off to a great start. Henrik's goal was fabulous when you look at it. I think it was a couple of minutes in.
Yeah.
And then we had a couple of dodgy moments. Boyley nearly scored. Giorgio Boyle nearly scored. I think Lee Jenkinson nearly got one. And then, the goal that came with 10, 15 minutes to go, that just settled the whole stadium. And it was a relief one. I think, you think to Sundays with Celtic, it was euphoric because of the circumstances of the game. But I think that one in 97, 98 was relief for 60,000 people in the stadium, the 15 or 16 in the squad, and goodness knows how many are around the world that were Celtic supporters at the time.
And Harold Bratback had his moment in Celtic history. Did he seem slightly bewildered by it all? I always get that. I remember him telling me that he, when he played at the Norwegian Pro League at that time, was part-time.
Yeah.
And I said, what did you do? And he was standing there wearing a Gant jacket and a pair of spectacles that were as thick as lemonade bottles. And he said, I'm an accountant.
Yeah.
And I thought, how's this guy going to settle in here? So he did seem slightly bewildered for much of his time there. And indeed, that particular day.
Yeah, but there were. I think I look back at some of the games that we played that year, and I think every now and then he'd pop up with an important goal. There was one game he scored 4. He probably could have scored double the amount that he did. There were times in training when Harold didn't even score in training for a whole week, and you did wonder. But what got Harold by was as you said, he was one of the most genuine people you'll meet, and the fact that he's gone on to achieve so much as an airline pilot probably tells you he was more intelligent than most of us in the dressing room.
It does rather. Having said that, given the thickness of those glasses, if you walked onto a Boeing 767.
I always thought you used to have 20/20 vision to fly an airplane, but maybe it's not the case in Norway.
Maybe he's had them lasered. You never know. And listen, right after that game, when did you find out that the guy who'd broken Rangers' stranglehold in the titles was off? Vim.
Well, there were rumours going around, I think, for a few weeks prior. But the confirmation came. We were taken away straight away to Portugal and I think we played against Sporting Lisbon or Benfica. I can't remember which team it was. It was one of those teams, and we were. And you don't really, after you've won a title like that, you really want to go and celebrate and enjoy it. And now, don't get me wrong, we did. Okay,
Really?
And when we got to Portugal, we knew we had a game to play, but it was secondary on our minds. But then the thunderbolt came that Wim was going to leave. The circumstances in and around it weren't very clear. I remember I think pretty sure we wrote a rather harsh email to the people that mattered at Parkhead about how we felt about it. We got together as a group and sent that and said, look, we're not happy about this situation. Vim's done a fantastic job. You're basically stopping any momentum that we may have gained, having been under so much pressure for 9 years. And I remember us being in a lift, and there was about 4 or 5 of us. Jackie McNamara, I know Tommy Boyd clearly was one of those, and we were discussing. We weren't happy, but there was almost and I know every one of us spoke to Vim about it, but it was almost as if it had already been done, David. And I can remember us. We were in the hotel, and there was about 5 or 6 big round tables, and I remember Vim standing up, and he was in tears, and he said, "Look, just one more time, can we stand up for the champions?" And it was a poignant moment, but I think at that point we knew it was irreversible. I think Vim had probably made his mind up well before even that final game.
I can't imagine Wim Jansen being in tears.
No, he was really emotional about it, because we all were. We'd had a special year under a huge amount of duress, and I think that was probably the fact that Vim was new into the idea of stopping 10 probably helped him a little bit, because he didn't get too involved in the circus that goes in and around old firm rivalry. He was able to step back and make decisions that were in the end played out to provide us with a championship.
Was there a point in that particular season where you knew the league was won? I thought when Rangers sold Gascoigne, that was an interesting statement from Rangers. It was almost like they were building for the Advocaat era to follow. But did you get a boost from when Rangers sold Gascoigne?
God, goodness me, yeah. He's one of the English greats, and up in Scotland, I've watched videos of him past when he scored. Was it the hat trick against Aberdeen that clinched the title? That's and right. That was quite remarkable in itself. So for them to lose a player like that, and it probably a talisman in the dressing room, and larger than life as we know. Yes, it did, but at no time in that season did I think we won the title. I think there were times when we had a momentous result. The one at New Year was one of those. But then I can also remember going to Ibrox and Jonas Tern smashing a volley in the top right-hand corner, and then Albert's making it 2. And it had swung the other way. I can remember a game against Hibs where we drew 0-0 and we should have been out of sight before half-time. And it swung the other way. So never at any time did we feel comfortable.
When did you notice the pressure at Celtic when you arrived? Because it was a 9 in a row, it was a 10 in a row season, so exactly the same situation as being experienced now, albeit on the other side.
Yeah. When did I? The reality was the final game of the season. That was it. That was when it really kicked in, and that's why it was so nerve-wracking. But through the season, I can only imagine it now, David. The media with Twitter and everything else that goes on. Goodness me, it would have been frenetic, and it probably is building up that way because the general public can have their say in any way they want, and I think the players nowadays would be well advised to stay away from it, to be honest, because that just adds to the pressure.
Yeah, I think so. That's the coach speaking in you. That's the coach speaking in you. Listen, after that season, you've had that unbelievable season. Wim goes, and you get a new manager. What was that like?
I wanted when they made the appointment, we were still sat in the dressing room, and I was still waiting for Vim to walk back through as if it had been a nightmare. It was, to be honest, Joseph Venglos came in, and he's one of the nicest guys you'll meet in football. He had a lovely way about him. Yeah. He was walking into a wounded dressing room, and that made it very, very difficult for him. Mm-hmm. But the way he, the respect that he had from us as a playing group, it's just a shame it didn't transform into sort of winning something for him in that year.
Got a question on Twitter about Dr. Joe from Lost Boys, and he says, what was Dr. Joe like to work with? He almost seemed to me, says Lost Boys here, like a lost pensioner. No,
he do you know what? He would probably be more suited to this generation because of how he managed and how he coached.
Yeah.
I think he was probably tarred by his time at Aston Villa as well before he came up. But if you think if he gave this football club one thing, it was Lubo Moravcik. Yeah. So that's what Dr. Joe should be remembered for.
When did you spot that he was a player?
Within the first minute of training.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, he's a wizard. He was a wizard. He still is. I think I played a few years back with him at Celtic Park in one of the charity games that the club put on, and he was amazing still. The way he can check back off both feet. He'd probably be in Liverpool or Man City or their teams right now if he was still playing.
I always wondered where the hell had he been all my life.
Yeah, that was quite a funny one actually, and it was when John Barnes came into the dressing room as manager, and I can remember him turning round to Lubo at one point and saying, "You know what? If you'd have played like that all your career, you would have made lots of appearances at international level." At which point Lubo pointed out he'd already played 76 times for his country,
and at the World Cup.
Yeah, World Cups. Yeah. So I think I mean, I'd never heard of Lubo Moravcik until he came to the football club, and that's the crazy thing. Probably at that point the football wasn't on the telly to the point it is now. But you think I think Zidane's one quote. He's always asked, who's the best player he's ever played with, and he said Lubo Moravcik. So you couldn't have a better mental than that, really, could you?
Absolutely. I remember just before the game, of course, he debuted in a 5-1 game, which you were injured for that particular game, I remember. But Joe said to me, he said, listen, the press here are making fun of this guy. I said, and he had a hold of me by the arm, and I could feel my arm was sore. He had such a tight grip. And he said, this guy is world class. Yeah. Believe me in this. If you don't ever believe me in anything else, believe me that this guy is world class. Yeah. I want you to say that on TV, and you will not embarrass yourself. Yeah. And I did, and I've always been really thankful for him for that. Strange memory of it. Listen, a guy who came in that year that I thought was something else on and off the pitch was Mark Viduka.
Yeah,
what a player! But also, I mean, it was a hell of a transfer. What are your memories of Big Dukes and his arrival?
Well, you can actually credit the players for that, and in particular, big Alan Stubbs, because I remember Jock Brown coming into the group at we must have been away somewhere, and he said to the lads, "Who's the best centre forward you played against?" And Stubbsy turned around. He said, "Well, we played against him the other week out in Zagreb." He said he was unplayable. He said physically, he was strong, he was technically good, and he wasn't short of pace. The next thing you know, we signed Mark Viduka. That's how it happened.
I didn't know that.
Sorry?
I didn't know that.
That's true.
Stubbsy.
True story, that.
Yeah.
So Alan Stubbs was probably, and Alan did pretty well against him in the first tie. We didn't do quite so well in the second tie when we got beat 3-0 out there. But and then the strange thing with Big Vidukes was, and he didn't really endear himself to the dressing room immediately, was that he hadn't even played a game for us, and he said, "No, this is just a stepping stone to Europe." and then decided to take a month off because he had some mental issues, and we respected that. And then he came in, and we went, okay, we've got a proper player here. Mm-hmm. He was a foil for Henrique, and I think, I'm not sure whether it was his second season, David, but I think he even by Christmas he got 30 odd goals. I might be wrong, but I know to face as a goalkeeper, he had one of the hardest shots I've ever witnessed.
And was that tough every day? Did you get smashed with those every day?
I used to get out of the way of it most of the time. That's true.
Very wise.
Downhill, to be honest.
Very wise. That's why you still look the same now as you did back then, old son. Now, listen, after Dr. Joe, you mentioned him there a minute ago, John Barnes came in. I've got to say, John Barnes, I was so excited when he got the job because he was one of my favourite players. Yeah. And goodness me, it went downhill quickly.
Yeah. I'm the same as you. I mean, I made my Premier League debut against John Barnes, which was a huge thrill when he was at Liverpool.
Did you get a throw back?
Yeah, and he was one of those players that, as a fellow professional, you saw him get on the ball, and he did. He'd light up your face and light up the TV and light up the team that he was playing for. And I don't want to be too critical, but I think he was given a job that at that time was way in advance of where his learning where his learning was. He wasn't at that point capable of managing a club with the demands and expectations of Celtic Football Club. And I know there was a team put behind him to support that. Obviously we had Terry McDermott and we had Kenny in there, and Kenny eventually took over. But I just think, and it's a shame, I think it was too early for John.
What happened the night of Super Cali Go Ballistic, which is when it ended for John back in February 2000?
Yeah, I'll tell you what happened, and you might remember this. on the Saturday before, a speaker started wobbling because the winds were too high, and the game was called off on the Saturday. And history could be completely different if that hadn't have happened.
Yeah, I know.
Because then we went to the midweek fixture, and yeah, I mean, obviously as a goalkeeper, you're always last in, David, right? Because you go into the back of your net and you pick your glove bag, your water bottle, and you get into the dressing room. Before I'd got in the dressing room, as I got in the dressing room, the whole thing had already kicked off. Big Viduka was in the corner. He had his boots off, his shorts off. People were effing and blinding. Eric Black was having a go. John wasn't saying a lot at the time. And I walked in and going, what's going on? He says, he's refusing to play. Eric's told him he needs to pull his finger out his arsehole, words to that effect. and then the whole thing kind of spiralled into a bit of a debacle, was probably the best way I could put it. Things got said at half time that probably should have been put on the back burner until after the game. We should have just really got on with it and gone out and turned the result around. But I think that was, when I look back now again, you look back in management, how the whole thing was handled at half time could have been done differently.
Had that been building up that pressure? I remember you lost to Hearts at Parkhead on the Saturday before that game, and that was the first time in 40 years they'd won at Parkhead. A young Gary Naismith got the winner, if memory serves. Had the pressure and the anxiety within the squad been building at that point?
Yeah, it had, and I think there were characters in the dressing room, and it does always come. As much as managers take the blame sometimes, there were characters. A few of us in there that didn't quite gel in the way that we had done in the year under Wim, and then in the following years under Martin. And probably, if I'm looking back, if we'd have handled it different as a group and maybe put our own egos to one side, it may not have happened. But still, as well, that comes down to how strong your management is. Was it unfair that John Barnes get the sack, or was it unavoidable? No, I genuinely think. Sorry, David, I genuinely think that was the right thing at that time, and and again, history shows that. Take me back to the 27th of August 2000. Martin O'Neill's manager by this point, and I would like to say, David, Kenny came in and steadied the ship brilliantly.
Yeah.
Did a really good job when he came in. And that's coming from someone. He left me out in the first game, and I got back in. But his experience was massive and helped us, I think, in that following summer.
And got you your second League Cup winners.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. In an
as poor a
emergency
season as it was, we did end up with some silverware.
What did Martin O'Neill do at Celtic to completely transform the club?
His first management, his first meeting with the players was huge, because he laid down a couple of markers. It was pretty clear who the boss was. I think he then bought some. He was given obviously a reasonable amount of money, but he bought strong people into that dressing room that I think we had previously lacked or we'd lost. He bought those kind back in. He bought winners back in. Chris Sutton, Neil Lennon eventually came in as well at some point, and I think John Hartson later. They were. If you think back to the transfer fees that were paid now, and they were paid 18 years ago. These were players at the top of the game.
Mm-hmm. They really were. Was Chris Sutton a transformational signing? He seemed to give something extra to Henrik Larsson, and John Hartson seemed to add some more as well. But for me, Sutty, I was in the tunnel in those days. He terrorised everybody, particularly me, but opposition players as well. Would that be a fair interpretation?
Well, I think he scared all of us. He still does. He still does it because he says the wrong thing. But no, we had to, having lost Big Vidukes, we had to have a foil up front. You've always got, whatever team, you talked about Edouard earlier, you've got to have a platform to play off. And Sutty was that. He was a mountain of a man. He could hold. He knew, the word pin and Chris Sutton is synonymous. He knew how to pin a fullback, a centre back. And once you've got a player that can do that, it enables others to run off him. And then he had Stilian Petrov behind him. He had Paul Lambert, who was doing all the marshalling. We had good wide players, whether it was Jackie McNamara, Didier Gatt, Alan Thompson was quality, Lubo was still there. But if you've got that focal point, and Chris was that, it allows so many other parts of the game to come to fruition.
He's a pain in the arse on TV, is our Sutty, but he was exactly the same in the dressing room, is it not?
Yeah, he was. He'd cluster bomb the place. Cluster bomb it, sit back, and let everybody else have a pop. But at the same time, I remember walking in, and there's a book that was written about Henry VIII, and it was written in the first person, as if it was Henry VIII. And I'd read it probably 10 years ago before this, and because I was doing English history at school. And I remember walking into the dressing room, and he was sat in the corner reading this book about Henry VIII, and I'm thinking, this is a professional footballer that's just come from Chelsea, and he's just come into our dressing room. So I think even going back then, he was mischievous, but he was very intelligent at the same time.
And that's what makes him box office today, doesn't it? Without a doubt. Now listen, take me to Chris Sutton's Old Firm game debut, which was the 27th of August 2000, a day that I think turned Celtic into the club that they are now.
Yeah.
Swung the balance in Old Firm history. Talk us through that day. How did Martin get you up for that?
I don't think he had to. He had to, but I think because at that point we had won nearly every game anyway leading into that, I think bar one. The confidence was already there, but it was just what his belief in us as a group was already pretty obvious. And again, I say because of the characters that he brought in. I mean, I remember one game he came in just to change it slightly, and just to show you what he was like, Martin. He came in and he literally walked in the dressing room. It was before we played Hibs, and he went, "I'm not sure if you guys are up for it today," and walked back out. And we're all sort of sat there going, "So that's our team talk." And I think we won 5-0. Right? So they were the kinds of things that Martin did. They're sort of synonymous with Cloughie, really, and whether he'd learned that off Brian, I'm not sure. But I think that day in particular, I mean, we had a great start. Let's be honest. To be 3-0 up in no time at all. And I think the supporters, the ground rocked as well as any time I can remember being there as a player myself on that day.
The first goal was scored when I was walking from the tunnel up to the stand, so I didn't see it, but it sounded like a herd of elephants or a meteor shower had hit the building. It was unbelievable. I've never known anything like it. A listener question here. Sideshow Bob says to you, what was your reaction when Rab Douglas came in at Celtic? How did you feel about that?
Yeah, thanks, Bob.
Yeah. His name's actually Sideshow Bob, which seems quite fitting in this context.
Yeah. Well, I always knew that Martin was going to strengthen the goalkeeping department, all right? Because we had Dimitri, I think, was still at the club then, and Dimitri was having issues with his knees, and hadn't quite sort of taken the mantle off me at that point. Stuart was still there, Curzo, but I'd managed to sort of fight that little battle during the pre-season, and so I knew there was behind me. I knew there was always a strain of thought that he was going to strengthen the goalkeeping department. At the time, so I was always going into every game under added pressure, alongside the fact that you were playing for Celtic anyway. I remember, I think there was a game in Helsinki where I didn't cover myself in glory, but we still managed to get through the tie. And then we played against Bordeaux, and I didn't put myself down to any of the goals, but I think that was where Martin thought I wasn't probably that level that he needed. So when Rab came in, it was only going to be a matter of time. Don't get me wrong, I fought for that position, and we were still unbeaten in the league when I was left out. So that was quite hard to take. But again, you come back to how Martin O'Neill manages, and he got me in his office. He said, look, he says, I'm playing Rab this weekend. He said, and you'll be disappointed. I said, yeah, I'm really disappointed because we're unbeaten in the league and we're on a run. He said, yeah, I know that. He said, but what I'll do, he said, I'm going to offer you a 3.5-year contract. He said, I understand your value to this group. It's just that sometimes your goalkeeping gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Cheers.
So I sort of sat there and I thought, I think I'd been at the club for 3 years and I loved the place, and I said, well, I'll accept your very kind offer.
Thanks very much.
And he paid me back, to be fair, towards the end of the season when made sure that I was on the bench as well for the cup final that ensured that I actually had the treble medals. And
brilliant.
So in answer to Bob, I was gutted. But I'd already learned in that 3 years that it was more than just about being a playing member of the team. It was about being part of a big club and a squad that you wanted to be successful.
Talking about part of squads, I'd completely forgotten that you were part of the World Cup '98 squad. First of all, how the hell did you get a game for Scotland?
My grandma's from Blantyre.
Ah.
Yeah, I've still got family in Blantyre, so it was on my father's side.
Is that the rough side of the family?
Yes, it is actually.
Sorry, Blantyre, we're only kidding.
Yeah, the other side. Yeah, the other side was quite well educated.
Oh, bless. Talking to your family, Chippy has come in on Twitter and said, Jonathan, is your dad still as mad as he comes across? I never thought he came out mad. His Wimbledon team came across as been a bit mad.
Yeah, I think that's probably what he gets remembered for. He's always been what you call a football maverick. But again, he's always worn his heart on his sleeve, and hopefully that's what he'll always be remembered for. That FA Cup win in 1988 against Liverpool is a tremendous part of football history and also our family. So yeah, he's retired now. I don't think he's mellowed yet. I still think he believes he could manage Real Madrid if he was given the opportunity, but isn't that the beauty of old football managers?
Oh, without a doubt. I interviewed John Aldridge at a function recently on stage, and he still hasn't got over that FA Cup final shock. So there you go. Your old fella's made an impact on him. A couple more questions before we go. Tell us about being in the Scotland squad, France '98. You had Neil Sullivan above you, and Jim Leighton as well. I mean, were you just smoking cigars? Were you topping up your tan? Was it a relaxing experience for you?
No. It was a late call-up because obviously we'd won the league and I was over in Jersey and I spent 3 days absolutely obliterated with the Celtic Supporters Club in Jersey. I got back and I had a phone call saying, you've... Andy had gone AWOL, gone for some milk again, and would you be keen on going to the World Cup? So I literally got on a plane, went out to Washington, met the lads, and ended up, that's the pinnacle of any footballer's career, is to be able to go to a World Cup. I didn't think I was ever going to play, but I felt that I was a bit unlucky to have been left out in the first place because of the form I'd shown that season.
Have you still got the kilt?
It was a tremendous place to be. It was fantastic. That first game against Brazil to open the World Cup, and there were a lot of my Celtic teammates there as well. So it was a good 3 weeks.
Do you still have the kilt?
I do, and it literally is 12 feet above me, and I'm vowing to be able to fit into it again one day.
Well, listen, good luck with that at 51, old son. One last question here from the audience. Neil Henderson has asked me to ask you, how often do people compare you to Grant Mitchell?
Yeah, too often. I'm a little bit taller than Mr. Grant Mitchell, or Ross as his name is, but it was even when I was playing, I think I got aligned with looking like him. I thought I had plenty of hair, but it was better than Les Battersby, as I used to get called on the odd occasion.
Yeah, Warren Mitchell would be quite as good. Gouldy, it's been great to catch up. I have to say, for a guy who loved doing the media for so long and so enthusiastically, and as we just heard, it's so impressively, you disappeared for such a long time. But it's great to hear you again.
Thank you. Thanks for getting in touch with me, Dave. I appreciate your time you've given me, and I look forward to seeing you again, actually.
Good man, Gouldy. And I'm sorry Grado couldn't make it. I bet you're gutted about that.
Next time.
Yeah, we'll get me phone you up with one of his foul mouth WhatsApp messages that I get every couple of days.
That'll do.
Cheers, Gouldy.
Thank you very much.
Now, gorgeous girl, it's time for our Beer 52 match of the week. Last week we asked for a prediction for the League Cup final, and surprisingly, out of the hundreds of entrants, only Paul Gillen got it right. Now, how is that? I told everyone it was going to be a 1-goal advantage for the winner. Did I not say that? It's always been like that in League Cup finals and Scottish Cup finals between the Old Firm. So, anyway, well done to Paul getting it right. This week, our Beer 52 match of the week is Motherwell against Rangers on Sunday. It's Raymond Mearns against Grado, Motherwell Rangers on Sunday. So all you have to do to win is guess the correct score before 12 o'clock on Sunday. Everyone who gets the score right will go into the draw to win the beer. Now, you can enter by commenting on the link on the Football Daft Facebook page or tweet your score to @FootballDaftPod with the hashtag #freebeer. That's hashtag #freebeer. Winners must be over 18 and stay in the UK. And you can get your free beer from Beer 52 as well. Are you worried about a wee reaction from Rangers after the UEFA Cup? Are you worried about a wee reaction from Rangers dropping 2 points at Pittodrie? All the energy that they lost on Sunday, and of course Thursday night's Europa League game. Ooh, could be a wee banana skin.
I've got a feeling Stevie G's going to spice it up this week. I want Greg Stewart to start. Maybe Seed Defoe play for the start.
Yeah.
And I think Rangers will win this game. I think I'm going to go for 3-2.
I'm going to go for 1 each because Motherwell are third top of the table and they're doing well at the moment. 3 wins in a row, albeit against likes of St Johnstone, St Mirren and Hearts, and they've been struggling.
But they'll be up for it.
I'm slightly worried.
They will be up for it.
I'm slightly worried that Motherwell might drop 2 points.
You're worried? Were you exposing yourself here, David boy?
I'll just do my zip up. Now, all you need to do is go to beer52.com/daft and we can sort out free beers if you cover just $4.95 for the postage. Now, you normally get 8, but as you're a Football Daft listener, we'll give you 2 extra free beers, and that's a total of 10 free beers.
Your first box will be sent to you next day delivery, and it's a monthly subscription service for beer. And Beer 52, they don't hold you to ransom. You can leave at any time. But these beers are tremendous. There's a big box of beers out there waiting for me, so I'm going to take that home tonight once I've done panto. I'm going to sit, relax.
Waiting
Alright.
for the team.
What do you mean?
Waiting for the team. The beers are waiting for the team, surely. Couple for John, couple for me.
Oh, there's plenty out there. There's plenty out there.
Oh, brilliant.
Don't worry about that. So just go to beer52.com/daft and get your first case of 10 beers for free. Scrumptious.
Oh, I tell you what, that puts me right in the mood for a baby. So should we call it a day here?
Aye, let's call it a day. I need to boost anyway, mate. Let's read some reviews, but...
How many have we got?
Well, here's one for Stuarty Boy 94.
He says, what else can you want in a Scottish football podcast? Great stories, great banter, and even better guests.
Lovely Stuarty Boy.
Thanks, Stuarty Boy.
Right, this review comes from not David Tanner.
No.
This is about, if that even is your real name, your reviewer. Great podcast now that David Tanner is doing it, in brackets, while Sean Cameron is taking a break from it. Can you sack Grado and producer John now? That should lead to even more improvement, indeed perfection. This sounds like somebody that has the same fucking vocabulary as somebody sitting across the road from me. David is the dog's testes. I know a certain guy called David that loves to mention genitalia. Kind regards, Anonymous.
Well, thank you, Anonymous.
I've got 2 words for that. It's yourself.
I refute that allegation, but if I were to swear on the Bible, it might have been me. But I just...
You've been on fake reviews!
No.
David Tanner!
What
it
are
wasn't
you
me.
like? You can't take you anywhere.
It wasn't me.
It wasn't me. Anyway, David,
Good use of punctuation, though, eh?
you know what? Go for it, mate. Go for it. Get yourself to run. But what an awesome episode. I'm just a wee bit gutted that I had to leave for the Gouldy interview. Gouldy, aye. So I'm off now. I need to boost. And we'll see you next week.
2 pantos in one day, and you've managed to squeeze bits of the podcast either side of it. I'm impressed with your workload, old son.
That's why I deserve a couple of cases of Beer 52.
So listen, everyone, we'll be getting stuck into the Beer 52 bevy. Remember to contact us and let us know your donkey. And we'll see you next week. Thanks again to Jonathan Gould. Thanks to Raymond Mearns.
Yep.
Thanks to you. Thanks to producer John for producer joining us. Thanks to you for turning up.
Aye, I can.
And being a star as always.
Oh, Dave, you melt my heart. David, you've been football.
Grado, you've been daft.
It's your show. Remember that?
All my days.
All my days.